Hey, John Boy.
Hello and welcome to the Casual Watch Reviewer. I started this channel, I already have a YouTube channel about watches, which is my passion. I love watches very much, but movies have been with me since my whole life, since I was very young. So I'm going to go through, I don't know how regular, maybe once a week, and review my favorite movies from my childhood. We're going to start with the best Christmas movie ever, Die Hard. So Die Hard is one of the best action movies ever. It's not just because it's a Christmas movie. We start out with John McClane, our hero, on the plane, and he's scared of flying. So you see vulnerabilities. And before I go deep into this review, I just want to say that this movie, most of the people I see reviewing it, saying how the action, the set pieces, the terrorist. But really, the filmmakers have like deep tones in there. The filmmakers in this movie, they show corporate America and the greed around it. So it's not just the terrorists or the bad guys. You also get this, this undertone in this movie while watching it. You feel like, these guys aren't that good. Like these corporate people. So you see that, and that comes to my favorite character, Ellis. He's my favorite. He is my favorite character in the movie. You want him to die, but then you don't. And he's so cheesy. He's like the most businessman from the 80s. He's completely the 80s. And then you got John McClane, as I said, our hero. We have Hans Gruber. Oh my gosh. Hans Gruber by Alan Rickman. It was his first performance. I think he was 48 in this movie. Alan Rickman's first performance was Die Hard. And he was a stage actor before, but that's amazing. His acting in this movie is the best, one of the best super villains ever. And he plays this. He's actually an English actor. He has an English accent, but he plays a German terrorist with an American accent. There's one scene in the movie. It's very, very famous, and that leads me to the plot hole. There is a slight plot hole, but we'll get to that a little towards the end, because I actually noticed that because of my passion in watches. So before I go into too much into the plot, I want to stop you really quick. I want to say, if you haven't seen this movie, turn this review off and go watch the movie right now. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not going to go too deep in spoilers, but just turn it off. Go watch the movie. Have you gone and watched it? Well, I hope you have. So let's continue. So he goes on the plane, visits his wife, and he goes to this party. He's out of his element. You could tell that he's not this corporate guy right away. He sits in the front of his limo, and that shows you he's like more of an everyday man. And then he goes up and sees his wife with my favorite guy, Ellis. And he says very famously, he says, "Show him the watch." He says, "Not right now." He says, "Well, it's a Rolex." And that line, it probably helped Rolex, right? It probably made the sales go up, but it's really a bad thing, because it shows the corporate greed, the sleaziness behind it, and it's not meant to be in a good light. So the terrorists take over, and we meet our friend Hans. Oh my gosh, you could tell he's a fraud from the beginning if you pay attention. He says he was in English, literature or whatever. And then he goes on to say a quote, I think it was from Caesar, I'm pretty sure, or one of them. And he says it wrong, actually, in the movie. It means something else. So it shows you that this guy's not what he perceives to be. He guesses the suit, and they talk about fashion in London. He's a very calm villain. He's very calm and collected. And you could see John tearing that away from all the, they were very calculated. And throughout the movie, this, our hero, John McClane, just keeps nagging at them. And it's very, very neat. The action from start to finish is unbelievable. Every scene has a purpose. There's not one scene that doesn't make sense or anything. And I hear, there's a lot of problems with the cliche of the cops, going back to the cops. So the first cop, he's our guy from Family Ties, but then the captain comes over and he's not competent, right? He's playing, he's like, oh, maybe he's a bartender. Like, he's just not coping anything. And then he doesn't believe that, whatever. So then the FBI are even dumber. Like, they're idiots. In the movie, they really are, and they make them out to be like this. And you notice the guy from Family Ties is the only one that's sensible. And it's very, very, it's a tone through the movie. So I don't think, some people call that a cliche. I don't even call that a cliche. I call that part of the writing. It's so perfect, the writing in this movie. And it could have been easily just an action movie. Could have been a regular action movie that didn't have any subtle commentary, but it does. There is a lot of commentary throughout the movie. So going back, so the cops are incompetent. John, he needs help in there. He's killing each terrorist. He goes through them all. And then we see slowly that. And also throughout the movie, John McClane is looking at other girls, like through the posters and everything. And then he slowly goes back to his wife. That's another thing. He has character development through his wife. He doesn't really like her doing this corporate thing, and he's not proud of her. But by the time the end goes around, they're very, they're in love, and it shows that whole transition through it. So it's just a brilliant movie. I don't want to go through every plot point, but man, is it good. And that Ellis scene, they drag it out when he dies. It is gotta be like like cheesy, funny, but it's like you're pulling your hair out. He's like, what is he doing, right? This is my favorite. He's like, I'm your white knight, the best. But go watch the movie, go watch that scene again. It is the funniest. But leads me to my conclusion of this review. This is a 10 out of 10 movie. And this plot hole doesn't make it any worse or better, but I would have liked to see it in. So they originally shot the movie there was a famous line in there. He says, you can tell by the cigarettes and the clothing tag. That's what Bruce Willis says in the line. But originally it was, you could tell by their clothing, watches, and cigarettes. So they got rid of the watches. I don't know why. I don't know the whole story with that, but there was a whole subplot where the bad guys synced up their watches. They were Tag Heuers too. They were Tag Heuers, and that was a whole thing. And that's why you still see in the scene with John McClane meets Hans for the first time, with the American accent, he puts his watch behind his back. And I never got that. I was like, why is he standing like that? But then I found out the whole plot hole thing. So it's not really a plot hole, but it's how he finds out the name. That's really what it is. So I can live with that. It's still in my books. I'm going to rate it 10 out of 10. It's a great movie. Tell me your opinion in the comments down below. Subscribe for more reviews. I'm just going to go through the movies I like. If you like watches, I have another watch channel. I'll leave a link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next movie.